Hello everybody, it's me Colton Johnson with Empty Popcorn Bucket Productions. Today I'm going to be seeing Final Destination Bloodlines. But before I do that, let me talk about Final Destination for a minute. Love it or hate it, these movies are iconic. Especially watching them like years after they've been released. And to say these movies grew up as when I was a kid, I didn't really watch them as a kid, but like I got around to watching them as a teenager. My mom grew up loving these, my mom loved these movies as they released and came out. And I actually saw the fifth one in theaters, believe it or not. But there's just something about these movies that have such a charm and nostalgia for me. Being a late 90s baby and early 2000s kid, there's like charms about that 2000s vibe and 2000s filmmaking that makes these movies special. No, these movies aren't spectacles of film, especially in the genre. But I do have to say the concept of even just the first movie, in my opinion, is very brilliant. And though a lot of the movies follow the same formula, some do it a lot more clever than others. But I like the subtle nods and connection each movie has. So before I go to the theaters to watch Final Destination Bloodlines, I'm going to go through each one of these movies and share my thoughts since I've rewatched them all in the last 3 days. So first we have Final Destination, released in 2000. This is the movie that started it all, and I think the concepts are really great. Honestly, if I watched this as a kid, I would have been terrified. I did watch this as a teenager for the first time, and at this point in my life, I never had ridden on an airplane, and it kind of built that fear of riding airplanes. I mean, I've since overcome that fear, but I mean, this movie has a lot of fun moments, and it just started it all. Then we have Final Destination 2, which this one's a lot of fun in a lot of ways, and there's some really clever moments, clever kills in this movie. And actually, like, looking back to it when I've talked to other people about these movies, if there's any movie that I've like heard people talk about the most, it's the second movie without them even realizing it's the second movie. And that goes to show how iconic it is. Then we have the Final Destination 3, which released back in 2006. And I remember briefly watching moments of this movie, which is terrible to say. I was like 7 years old. I love roller coasters. I still love roller coasters. But the beginning of this movie is nuts. Then we have Final Destination 4, or The Final Destination, and this movie's ridiculous. I hated it. Probably had the worst and cringiest deaths. The CGI is terrible, and this movie is just a mess, and I honestly just kind of skipped through it. Then we have Final Destination 5, in my opinion, is the best of the series, and I'm not going to spoil it because go check it out, but there's a lot of nods to other movies of the franchise that are perfect, in my opinion. And in my opinion, it's the highest rated so far in the franchise. Then we have Final Destination Bloodlines, which is the movie that I'll be going to see today. So without further ado, I'm going to head to the movie theaters to check out Final Destination Bloodlines, and I'll see you after the movie. Hello, I just got back from seeing Final Destination Bloodlines, and I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it a lot. And I thought it was probably the best in the franchise. And I look at that in multiple degrees. For one, the deaths are probably the best in the franchise. There's some deaths in other movies that might top some of the deaths, but the majority of the deaths were definitely breathtaking in the sense that I mean, and very jaw-dropping and shocking. And there was a few moments where I winced and was like, whoa, what did I just watch? There's a few red herrings in this movie as well. That's pretty interesting. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So Final Destination's Bloodlines is I would say it's a reboot of the whole Final Destination franchise. It's been about 14 years since the last installment, and a lot of time has passed since then. And it was good to see something very fresh and a new approach than what we've seen in other movies, where a group of people are involved in an accident. One of the people have a premonition of that accident, and multiple people that most likely would have died in said accident get saved from death, and then death slowly, by one, kind of checks them off the list. This one does it a little bit different by including the narrative of bloodlines or families, and having the whole disaster event taking place 50 plus years ago, and then everything building towards our characters. And I thought it was a very clever and interesting way that this movie was done. Like, if you look at it in a broader perspective, there's a lot of things that could have played into some of the other big disasters throughout the franchise. And I mean, death will get you in these movies. Like, you cheat death and death's gonna come for you. And I feel like as the movies have gone on, minus the fourth one, I feel like each one has built more of a serious, I wouldn't say serious. These movies are absolutely ridiculous in a lot of ways. And especially the early ones that I mentioned previously. But I feel like this one tonally is the best. I feel like the characters are pretty good for the most part. And there's some characters that, like, throughout the, like, at first I thought were pretty annoying, but like as the movie went on, I was like, wow, I kind of like you a little bit. And then, go see the movie. Well, I'm trying to think of what else. I really like the nods towards previous installments as well. I felt like having that lineage narrative was very interesting, very clever, and I like how it was done. And the last two installments, I feel like when it came to figuring out who was gonna die next or whatever, wasn't very clever. But like right off the bat, you know. And so now it's like a waiting game to figure out, oh, who's next, and then yeah. But I felt like the next one that I would say was pretty clever in that aspect or regard is the third one, where each death was kind of predicted through the photos that Wendy takes, and I thought that was clever. But I felt like the way they did it in this movie was clever in the way that they told us everything, but it was kind of a waiting game, and like there's like hints towards a lot of things here and there, and you're just like, oh, and then it's crazy. I love these movies, and this movie is definitely the strongest of the franchise. And I honestly wouldn't, like, there's franchises where I'm like, please don't make sequels, reboots, whatever. But then there's movies like this that are just a popcorn flick. And I mean, I didn't eat popcorn watching this movie, but it was a very enjoyable movie to watch. Very messed up in a lot of ways, but very enjoyable. And so from that aspect, I thought it was pretty awesome. And I wouldn't mind seeing more because I'll show up, I'll watch them. My mom loved these movies, and it was kind of fun to like think of, oh, she would have really liked this movie. She would have probably had a lot of fun with it. These movies and then the Scream movies are a lot of fun too. I have a list of like favorite horror franchises, and Scream's probably my number one, and I would say Final Destination is my top 5. But yeah, so Final Destination's Bloodlines, phenomenal movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Definitely not the most perfect movie in the world, but like, if you want to have a good time watching a movie and like seeing it for the purpose of what the movie is, then you'll have a good time too. But thank you so much for watching. I have another thing I wanted to mention, my Star Wars video. I'm going to watch the original trilogy this weekend, and with the release of Andor Season 2, and that's finally over, I was kind of waiting for that to clear, so then I can kind of be in the mindset to be ready for the original trilogy. So I'm going to probably delay that video for when I have the time to actually put it together, because Mission Impossible comes out, Lilo and Stitch comes out, Karate Kid, which I'm not even sure I'll see that, and so many more movies are coming out. It's the summer. The summer is here, which means blockbusters. So stay tuned for all those reviews. Thank you so much again for watching, and stay tuned for next week where I will be reviewing Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. If you go check out my TikTok, I will probably do a little video on my ranking of the Mission Impossible movies up until Final Reckoning. So check that out as well. And I'll probably do my ranking for this franchise on my TikTok as well, probably later this weekend. So thank you again. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. Bye.